Consumers don't believe Trump's tariff lies. Never listen to a podcast episode again. And let's talk about that sexy, sexy sales funnel. Enjoy.
Stay alive. Go and play outside. I can't be cool forever, but I can stay alive. Jesus was a carpenter. My daddy sold TVs. My mom watched other people's kids and anticipated needs. And when we go out to get groceries, I would flip through magazines. And
Welcome to the Age of Jeremy. My name is Jeremy Quintanilla. If you are new to this podcast is all about my business adventures and side quests, along with hopefully some interviews here about other people that have adventures and side quests. We'll be doing a lot of adventuring and side questing. If you don't know who I am and you're like, why am I even listening to this guy's podcast? I own a business called 3T Warrior Academy with my best friend and business partner and life partner. Not that way life partner, but it's a joke that we have. He is actually in a romantic relationship, just not with me. But 3T Warrior Academy, we have a financial firm or an insurance firm called Freedom Insurance. We own a company called Q Financial Age of Radio, not Q Financial Age of Radio, but Q Financial and Age of Radio. We own businesses together. We do businessy stuff. And this podcast is to help you with all of the learnings that I have been doing along the way. And the interviews are for you learning from other people. We also have these things that we do called lo-fi episodes that are other things that are going on in my life and my learnings that I can teach to you guys as well. So I'm excited about that because we'll be having some of those come out here soon because I'll be headed out to Las Vegas next week for the Bitcoin conference and the XRP Las Vegas conference with our business Blockheads, which created Merlin, the smartest way to track your crypto. If you are involved with cryptocurrency, Merlin is the app for you. It allows you to aggregate all of your cryptocurrencies into one place, see what your daily profits and losses are, what your overall profits and losses are, what your average entry price is. And what's great about it, it allows you to create exit strategies. So you don't get wrecked in the marketplace, I guess would be the motto that we originally used for it. I guess we still use that motto for it, but so you don't get wrecked in the marketplace. So go to merlincrypto.com and check that out. I would enjoy that if you did that. What I would also enjoy is if you head on over to Instagram at Age of Jeremy and you sign up to my broadcast channel, Dope Insights and Updates. What's great about that is if you're part of that broadcast channel every week, usually before I do these episodes, I ask if you have any questions. You can put your questions in there. I answer them here on the podcast episode, and you can get your financial, business, marketing, AI, I guess, check. Any question that you can think of, you can ask me. It's an Ask Me Anything section of our show. So you can ask me, well, anything, and I will do my best to answer it. The other great thing that we have coming up, if you're not part of the 3T Warrior Academy, go to 3twarrioracademy.com. Check out our NFT X royalty. When you purchase that, you get exclusive access to our 3T Warrior events and first dibs to buy them, I guess. Our Freedom Conference is in the beginning of the year, not Freedom Insurance, but our Freedom Conference is at the beginning of the year. Then we have a virtual conference that's only for X royalty holders that is going to be on June 6th. I'm going to be talking about artificial intelligence and some ways to utilize artificial intelligence to your, I guess, business advantage and I guess your advantage in life. So I'm excited to do that. That'll be on June 6th when we get back from, I guess, Las Vegas a week after we get back. So it's going to be a busy 2 weeks. And then we also have our Revive Retreat, which is more of a spiritual retreat to revive ourselves from the year. That's going to be in September. And again, if you have our X Royalty NFT, you can get first dibs into those things. And then we're working to provide other benefits as well. There are also a certain amount of benefits that you get if you buy a certain amount of NFTs at the beginning. You can check that out at 3twarrioracademy.com. Join the academy, talk to Jackie, Coach Jackie, and she will help you out with that. Trump risks U.S. consumers' discontent with his tariffs, a new poll shows. President Donald Trump is struggling to persuade U.S. consumers of the merits of his trade war, a Harris poll for Bloomberg Newsweek found. A majority of U.S. adults, 50%, said their household finances would be better off if Trump's tariffs had not been implemented. Some 52% of respondents said the promised benefits of the levies would not be worth their economic cost. The assessment comes after Trump's Liberation Day slate of tariffs made for the biggest act of U.S. protectionism since the 1930s, helping push U.S. taxation on imports to its highest level in nearly a century. The rollout was generated with turmoil in financial markets and new concerns over the possibility of the U.S. slipping into a recession. And so a lot of people are going to start feeling the effects of these tariffs. And some people are already feeling the effects of it. In fact, I think that there was a episode, I think it was a Pivot episode maybe, or it was from a New York Times episode, I believe. Maybe it was in an NPR episode. It was a podcast episode that I was listening somewhere, and they had said that there was someone who had to already pay $800,000 in taxes or tariff tax to the United States for the goods that they imported. And so I think that tariffs can be utilized obviously to bring people to the table for bargaining, which has worked out in some specific cases. I don't necessarily think the bargaining really mattered in the case of the United Kingdom or Britain or Canada. And so I'm not really sure if those things are going to really matter or really protect us. I think the biggest thing that is happening is the manufacturing that's taking place in China, and his hope, or this administration's hope, that they can bring manufacturing back here to the United States, which again, I guess when we're thinking about it, it would be great if we had these jobs here in the United States. I think one of the biggest problems is that our majority of our GDP in the United States comes from real estate and finances. So if you want to be middle class, or you want to be upper middle class, your business that you should be doing, you should either be going into finance or real estate, right? And this is something that kind of happened in the late 2000s, and is kind of not late 2000s, but the late 2010, like 2007, 2008, after the real estate crisis, like there was this big bubble that everything was about finance, right? Of education, which is where I kind of was in, right? So I went into finance, I went into accounting. Real estate was really big there. Everybody wanted to be a developer. When I was in school, they wanted to be the next Donald Trump and have Trump Tower and, be a real estate mogul or development mogul, which is great. And then you would go to school, and we saw this big increase in everybody going to finance, fintech, all of this stuff that was happening at the late 2009, 2010, and whatever we want to call those, the aughts. And then into the 2010s to the 2020s, that kind of accelerated. And if you look at it, all of the people that have been better off in the United States are people that have gone into those jobs, and in some extent tech. But the tech usually relates to things that benefit in those jobs markets: real estate, finance, investment banking, things of that nature. And so the problem is if you don't have another mass form of how GDP is created in the United States, then you will push out those people inside of the race to have a good life, and it'll be more difficult for them. I'm not saying it can't be done in other sectors. I'm saying that in the United States, our main GDP and the thing that brings the most money to the United States is traditionally in real estate and investments or finance. And so we became a country that was really focused on that, and everything else was essentially outsourced. Where it used to be, when we did have manufacturing here in the United States, right? When we did have manufacturing here in the United States, you could go and get a manufacturing job and be middle class, because that was the thing that was producing the GDP. So I'm not saying that we should have the tariffs and we should bring manufacturing back. What I'm saying is we need to broaden the spectrum of the things that are being created and produced by the United States, to give the people in the United States the opportunity to have those jobs and to work and live a middle class life, or an upper middle class life. And we're not doing a good job with that. Now, that being said, I don't think that the tariffs are a good idea personally, because it's going to be very difficult. If like, say, Apple moves its manufacturing back here to the United States and makes the iPhones here, it's not going to be like a dollar for dollar exchange saying that, okay, we're going to put this much money in and iPhones are going to go up to like $9,000. But we're going to see an increase in the price of the tech, because labor is the number one thing. Labor is the most expensive resource that a person has in a business. We have for one of our businesses that we spend over $600,000 a year in just the real estate. And if you look at that as a proportion to the revenue that we get in, it's the highest portion of the revenue, right? Like it's over like that. It's in that 40-50%, which is fine because of the fact that that it's a service business. That's where it should be. Like we're right in line. But again, if you take that and you move it into every other business, labor is going to be the largest expense that they have. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be, but what I'm saying is that you bring the labor over here into the United States, the labor costs are going to go up. Okay, so labor is going to go up. Those people are going to have more money. They're going to put more money back into into hopefully into the economy, right? And you're going to have a problem with inflation. So then inflation is going to go up. And then along with that, because of the costs going up and the inflation going up, the price of the goods are going to go up. In this case, the iPhone, and we could have like a $5,000 iPhone. And that's something that we have to think about. And it's something that we're willing to take. Because the thing that people don't get is that no matter what happens, our prices are going to change or probably go up, and we're going to be paying into something in some specific way, whether that's us paying more in taxes, whether that's paying in tariffs, which is just a tax, or it's us paying back to the businesses because the price of their goods are going up. There's always going to be something that we are going to pay back to someone. Okay. And we just have to figure out what is the best and sustainable person that we're going to be paying this money to benefit all of the people that are inside of the country. But so hopefully this tariff situation will get handled. I don't personally think, this is my personal opinion. I don't think that Trump, and I could probably get some information to back this up, but based off of right now, I don't think Trump's doing a good job as the president. I think he's might be doing a little bit better job than he did last time. But what he's been doing with these tariffs, the amount of what I think is wrongful activity by him and his family to grow their wealth in this administration. Not saying that everybody doesn't grow their wealth, but they're blatantly doing things that are kind of like, if you look at the Trump coin, a lot of people made money with the Trump coin. Once they kind of flooded out of the market to get their money, and then consumers lost their ass on the Trump coin, depending on when they got into it. Like right after that, the people that were supposed to watch and regulate the cryptocurrency were let go. I mean, think about that. Like, I'm not saying that there's not corruption in all different kinds in both the Democrat Nancy Pelosi. I'm not a fan of Nancy Pelosi. I think that she does a lot of insider trading type of things that she shouldn't be doing and that they shouldn't be being allowed to do. And Trump is doing the exact same thing, but for some reason, people on the right are okay when Trump does it, but they're not okay when people on the left do it. And just like there's some people that are on the left that think that it's okay when the people on the left do it, and it's not okay with people on the right do it. It is illegal. It should be illegal. They should not be allowed to do it. And they are only doing what they want to do to benefit themselves at the expense of all of the people here in the United States. And it shouldn't be that way, because they should be working for us, not to better their self-interest. It should be a completely altruistic job to be a statesman and to run the state, because it's an important job that we need to have to make America prosper against the other countries and to compete with the other countries. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with being, say, a patriot in that specific regard and wanting America to do really, really well. And right now, the rest of the world's laughing at America. So I hope it works out, the plan that they have. But as of right now, I think that they're doing a shit job. All right. I'm looking at my podcast on Podcast Addict. That's in my opinion right now, as of right now, and it still has a lot of work it needs to do. Podcast Addict is the best app to have your podcast on. No, we're not sponsored by them. No, we don't own them. We're not affiliated with them. It's just based off of all the other podcast apps since Google went down, and Google wasn't even all that great. And since Stitcher went away, or changed, or whatever happened to Stitcher, Podcast Addict, in my opinion, is the best app. So on here, I have Family Enterprise. I have an Executive Session. I have Decoder Ring. I have Hysterical, Pivot, Up First, The Journal, The Daily, Darknet Diaries, Better Off Online, All In, Hard Fork, Planet Money, Philosophize This, Easy Spanish, Easy German, Easy Italian, A Brush With, The Week in Art, in Unconfuse Me with Bill Gates, Hidden Brain, Radio Lab, Working, Book Feeds, Fresh Air, Code Switch, Throughline, NPR Politics, Speaking of Psychology. And those aren't even all of the podcasts that I actually listen to. Those are the podcasts that I actually subscribe to as I converted over to Podcast Addict. I listen to all other types of podcasts. I love audio stories and telling of stories, and I love them. But the problem is, I work like, if you listen to my podcast, I'm focused on working somewhere between 50 and 55 hours a week, pulling that far back so I can be more productive, resting more, meditating more, getting more into wellness, enlightening myself in spirituality, going harder in mysticism. But the point is that, I have a lot of stuff going on in my life, as probably you do. And so you can't listen to all your podcasts. And, that sucks, because podcasts are amazing and we should listen to more. Not on top of that, those are podcasts. And we have all the stuff that we watch on Netflix. We have all the screen time that we have. We have stuff, the video games that we want to play. There is so much fucking content out there. But Headliner, you can find it at headliner.app, specifically play.headliner.app/TLDL. And Too Long Didn't Listen is an actual thing that Headliner is helping to solve utilizing artificial intelligence. So if you head on over to that app, and it's great, you can watch it on our Mercury show. We talked about it. Our Mercury show is a show that I do for podcasting, gaming, pop culture, and other news. It's an Instagram live show that gets uploaded on our Instagram feed at Age of Radioverse. We do it live most Fridays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And they're trying to solve that. So Headliner originally is a program that allows you to upload or put in your RSS feed for your podcast, and then it automatically finds clips utilizing artificial intelligence. And so they took that technology, and what they allow you to do now at play.headliner.app/TLDL, which stands for Too Long Didn't Listen, which is a new, product or web app that they've created. You can actually put in the episodes that you want of different podcasts. You can put in full podcasts. You can put in their episodes. You can click up to 5 of them, and you can tell it how long you have to listen. Okay, so you can pick 10, 20, 30 minutes. And then what it does is it finds the most important clips, or what it thinks are the most important clips out of that podcast. And then it converts that into like an audio podcast for you. I know that sounds weird. So it'll be like an AI person. That's why I said go to Instagram at Age of Radioverse. There's the live show that we do for Mercury. You can go find it after the fact on YouTube at Age of Radioverse, and on X at Age of Radio. And you can see we did like a demonstration of it, of Trey's podcast and of another podcast that I forgot what Trey recommended that we did, and we did it. Okay, and so it picks out clips, and then it'll have like AI voices telling you, like having a podcast that's going over these clips with you. It's really great. It's a very fast way to get bite-sized information to you from the podcast. Now, the one thing that Headliner CEO, and I forgot her name, she put in an article about this was that she put a quote saying that they don't want it to replace us listening to podcasts. And you should really go and listen to the entire podcast, because you're going to miss out on things, obviously. But in the world that we live in, there's so much stuff going on, and there's so much information out there that we have to get into a place where we're getting it into different bite-sized information into fast pieces, so we can get the most important stuff out of it. And so while I agree with that thought, I also agree that if we kind of slow down with our podcast listening, if we slow down with our reading, if we slow down with the information that we have, that we're getting, and we can thoughtfully consume it, we may not get as much information, right? But we will understand and be better prepared to utilize the information that we're getting if we slow down on it. That's the only caveat that I have to this. I mean, for example, and it's kind of hypocritical, because I do this not with podcasting, but with other stuff. So one of the things that I recently did was I subscribed to Energy Insider by Barron's. It's $20 a month just for a newsletter. But it's a really good newsletter about what's going on in energy. And I think that's really important, because energy is like one of the most important issues that we have, not only because energy is costs are going to go up because of artificial intelligence and because of computing power that goes along with it. And which is also going to drive us getting better computer processing chips like quantum processors. But with what's going on with oil, what's going on with electricity, energy, so maybe there's corn fuel in the future. I don't know. Point is that when you stay up to date with these types of things, like Energy Insider offers, you also have the ability to get information, and you can make investment decisions based off of that information. Most of the time, I base my investments decision based off of what I understand about the business and where I think that the business is going to be going and what the business is doing. And when you have someone reporting, in this case, the author of the Energy Insider newsletter, when she's doing that reporting and she's sending that out, that will give you the information to bring your attention to companies that you can then go and research and then maybe invest in as well. And then also, like I said, you're staying up to date on energy. But what's really interesting is I sometimes don't have the time to read the whole thing. So rather than having something read it for me, I've taken the HTML version of the newsletter and I've put that into Notebook LM. And then in Notebook LM, I can create an audio style podcast similar to what I'm talking about here. But in this case, it's taking text, it's getting the most important pieces out of that text, and then it's creating an AI audio podcast where a guy and a girl are talking about the topics that are in the Energy Insider newsletter. And it's a great way to put that on, have listening to it. Maybe half listening to it because maybe I'm listening to it like while I'm doing something else, right? But I'm still listening to it, and it makes it easier for me to consume it rather than going and reading through the entire newsletter. Again, not to sound hypocritical because I do that, I also am aware that if I sat down and read it, I would understand the information more and a little bit more, I guess, have a better understanding of what's going on in it. And maybe be able to think about it a little bit more thoughtfully if I was reading it. But again, the point is because we do live in this world where there's all this information coming at us, there are certain things that we can utilize that can help us consume the things that we need to consume. If, for example, maybe we don't need to listen to the entire thing, or we just want some of the most important pieces out of it in the case of the newsletter, or in the case of maybe listening to some of the podcasts. So check it out. Go to headliner.app. You should be able to sign up for free. You have to create an account to utilize it, but you should be able to use it for free. I have a paid version of Headliner in general because we use it for our audio clips for Age of Radio and for Age of Jeremy. So go check that out. Let me know what you think about it. Snapchat me, DM me on Instagram, whatever. Let me know what you think about it if you're utilizing it, but it's at play.headliner.app/TLDL. And I'll put a link in the episode description so that you can link over to it really quick. Had a call with an advertiser this week, or a potential advertiser for Age of Radio. And I'm really excited how the conversation went. But it brought some, thoughts to my mind about how businesses look at the sales funnel, because I deal with this on a regular basis. And one of the problems with businesses is that they want to return on their investment, which is fine. But sometimes when you're doing advertising, especially depending on where you're at in the sales funnel, that you cannot, sometimes the advertising is going to be hard to track that return on investment. And there are some things that you can do in all areas of the sales funnel where you can get people to become a lead and you can follow them through the sales journey. But I think it's imperative that that businesses learn this one rule, is that if you're not making money, then you're dying. And if you're not making $1 million, then enough people don't know that you exist, which means that you have to have more advertising. We've been very blessed because CJV is a powerhouse as it relates to his ability to understand our customer and to be able to speak to them via social media. And so you can do it very organically. You can. It's much more difficult, and I don't know if everybody has the ability to do that because of just certain personas that exist as social media influencers, or if your business doesn't maybe rely on social media. I would say that's not okay. It should rely on social media in some way. The problem is that when people create social media from their business or for themselves, they think because they're making social media that people give a shit, and that's not the case. You have to build a trust and a reoccurring theme or thing or niche or idea that people can gravitate towards you to continue to follow you, right? And that's one of the reasons why, for me, even though I'm saying that, maybe another hypocritical thing is why it's difficult for me to grow, is because on my social media I talk about everything from gaming to podcasting to businesses to insurance to finance. It's like, who the fuck is this guy? But that's how awesome I am. I do all kinds of stuff. And so point is I want to kind of go over some of the areas of the sales funnel. So the idea behind the sales funnel is it's a stage of where people go through from learning about your product to buying your product. And so at the top, you can think of it as a funnel going down. At the top is a large amount of people hearing about the product and then moving those people down to actually purchasing. And that's why it gets smaller at the bottom, because not everybody who hears about the product is going to buy. So you have different stages of it. And so you can mess around with what is what stage, but it's essentially there's 6 stages that go into there's probably 5 stages that go into the buying of it, right? And then 4 stages that go into the buying of it, and then 2 stages that go into loyalty and maybe advocacy of the client to keep them and retain them. But if we're talking about starting out, where most businesses fail is in awareness. And the reason why they fail in awareness is because they don't want to spend money without 100% knowing that money's coming back to them. And in the awareness stage, it's very hard to track something because all you're doing is pumping out to show that you exist, kind of like as a billboard, or or pushing it out as awareness on Facebook, where the goal is for you to be heard, right? And learned about, and maybe where it's not a full strong call to action to get you into the buying cycle of whatever it is that's being sold. So when we think about awareness, it's works really, really well with paid ads. Okay. So if you were starting out in awareness, the two things that you need to do is be paying for Meta ads, be paying for Google ads, and possibly be paying for YouTube ads, which is a part of Google. So if you are not using Google search, if you're not using Google ads, if you're not using Google Bing, or using Microsoft Bing for search and awareness, I would highly recommend that you create some type of budget or pull money from your own pocket, even if it's $100 a week, $50 a week, whatever the case is, to get and push your name out there so more and more people know that you specifically exist. The other thing that awareness can do when you're doing this is, and there's more strategies on this, utilizing backlinks, which is a link to another page that talks about your page. So for example, SEO is really important, and it's changing because of AI, but we're not going to talk about that. You can go to LinkedIn and follow Abhi Varma, so ABYVARMA. He does a really great job explaining this, and he's a top voice, or a good voice to listen to as it relates to AI and marketing. So essentially, when you're doing SEO, you need to have your stuff ranked. And the only way for it to rank is for it to show up a lot. And so when you do search ads, it will show up at the top. But then what you also want to do is go and find backlinks. And what that means is on someone else's website, your name is there that links back over to your website. And that's essentially how SEO and Google works to find and push things at the top. That the more something is talked about and linked over to your website, the more Google thinks that your thing is the more likely thing that people need to see. So they push that up. Okay. So if we're thinking about awareness, the Google search, looking at SEO, getting good at SEO is super, super important. And I'm sorry, but you have to run paid ads. Meta is really good cost for paid ads. Podcasting on Age of Radio's podcast network is really good for paid ads, getting a lot of awareness out there where you're heard a lot. You could do some stuff on Spotify ads, iHeartRadio, regular radio. You could obviously Meta and Instagram and Snapchat and all those places can do really good for awareness because tons and tons of people are on there and tons of people are seeing them. And so your stuff is getting heard. So it's very important that you kind of bite the bullet and go really hardcore in awareness, because again, you have to make money. If you're not making money, you're dying. Okay. If you're not making revenue, you're dying. And if you're not at $1 million yet, it just means enough people have been heard about your product, because your product probably works in some cases. You just need to get to those cases and then you can work on the product as you move forward, if that makes sense. So like, for example, like I sell my Q financial services to people, not as much as I would like, but that's because I don't have enough advertising going out to it specifically, which we're changing on that. Right. And so the point is that if people are buying your product, right, if you have some people buying your product, you need to find out what that person's demographics, then you need to target those people, and then you will start bringing in more and more money. Okay. If you're not selling a product to anybody and everybody's like this, no one's buying it, you might have a product problem and you need to look at that. So that's the first part of the funnel. The second part of the funnel is going to be, is once people get that interest, what do you do? So once people are checking you out, you need to offer some type of lead magnet. Okay. So maybe if you bring awareness ads and those ads click over to your website, right, you can retarget those people, or maybe as the ads are going, you kind of get a better sense of your demographic. Then you can create like an interest. And interest works really good because what you do is you create some type of free thing that you give them. Maybe it's a free ebook, maybe it's a mini course, maybe it's a checklist, maybe it's an infographic, maybe it's some information on the thing that you're selling that you want to do it. I get caught up in these all the time. Companies like Reuters or companies like HubSpot, I'll see an ad and it'll say, get this free ebook to learn how to do marketing in 2024 or whatever, or an infographic on what's going on in this investment field or what's going on with taxes. And I click over that And the idea behind that is to get the email from them when they give it to you. Getting people's email is the most important thing, or their phone number or their home address, because then you can go directly after them. And if they leave social media, or they're not on social media, or they don't like, well, I guess if they're not on social media, you wouldn't got the first part unless you're doing it through Google search. But if they're not on social media, or they leave social media, the point is that if you can get their phone number and email address, you'll always be able to reach out to them. Okay. Unless they tell you to stop calling them or to stop emailing them. And so what you do in this interest stage is you find the people that you think are going to have more of the interest, and then you give them something to get to get, so that you can get information from them, so that you can go into retargeting them. And so one of the things that works really good is is to use things that build authority. So like I said, with the infographic for advertising, if we use Q Financial specifically, right, we want to build authority that we are the best in estate planning, taxes, and for individuals and for businesses. So if I create like a newsletter around that, or I create a infographic around that, or I create a PDF around that, and I start pushing that out, people are seeing that, they're buying that, they're learning about it, and they're starting to get this sense that Q Financial is the go-all place for this type of product, okay, or this type of leadership or thought leadership. So you utilize that to show that your voice matters in this industry. You know what you're talking about, so then people can start to trust you. And now they're warming up to you, and now this is when they would probably start to maybe buy from you, as you nurture them after you get their email address. And that's why the email address is so important, which we'll talk about here as we kind of go through the funnel. Actually, we're going to talk about it right now in the funnel. So after it goes through the interest, you go into consideration. And so consideration is when they're kind of like looking at you, they're comparing your others, and they got your ebook, they got your free thing, and they're like, man, I think I should buy from these people. I'm not sure, there's these other people over here. But then what you do is, because you got that email or their phone number, and that's why it's so important to get these things, you can put them into what we call nurture sequences. So then what you do is you nurture them with emails or phone number stuff, or other things that you want to do. So like maybe an idea would be this, that if you were in the consideration phase, let's say you got in the interest phase, you got their email by giving them an ebook. Then what you do is you email them and let them know that you have a newsletter, and you try to get them to subscribe, ask them if it's okay to subscribe to that newsletter. You're going to be talking about all this stuff. The newsletter's free. They subscribe to that newsletter. Then you're constantly hitting them with a newsletter every couple of weeks to give them the information that you want to give them, to kind of get them to buy. The other thing that you could do is you could invite them to a webinar. You could invite them into like showing how to, in an example of Q Financial, we also do bookkeeping services. Maybe I invite them to learn how to use QuickBooks, or to understand accounting so that they can do their bookkeeping better. And then we talk to them about maybe offering them our QuickBooks services, right? Or our bookkeeping services. And so that is so important, because now what you did is you took them to awareness. They starting to look at you with some type of authority and interest. And now you're pushing them for them to actually start considering to buy you, and to hopefully make that purchasing decision. And you might be thinking like, well, this sounds like a lot of work. Well, yes, it does sound like a lot of work. And that's why a lot of businesses fail, because they don't get this part 100% right. And they don't continue to try to tweak this part to make it better so that they can grow. And I'm just as guilty as this. I've done it in my business in the past. Some of the businesses I still do it with and don't have this locked in. And that's why they are not going. They're not growing. You get it? Okay. The other thing that you can do in this stage is you can like make like a podcast that you can send them. Maybe you have a private podcast. You can create other case studies. You can create other testimonials that you can give out to them. But the idea is that after you have their information, you're peppering them with other information to get them to trust you even more, so that then they can buy your product, or to show them, maybe not to trust you more, is to show them that you matter in this space, and that you have a value proposition that's different than your competitors, so that they will buy from you. Okay. And then you get them to convert. So they're finally ready to decide. You offer emergency in this stage, depending on what you're selling. You give some type of sell to get them to go in. You make it easy for them to purchase. You reach out to them by the phone call, through email. You make it one-on. You give them a free consultation. And then they're probably going to buy because of all that other stuff that you did. So it's like all this free, the way that I look at it, and Gary Vaynerchuk says it's good, and Coach JV says it's good, is you just give them free information, good information, free information, good information. And then you ask them to buy. And most of the time they will buy, because of all the trust that you've built with them over time. Okay. So that's like the sales funnel from like the awareness to the purchasing stage. You get them to understand you, you get them to start believing in you, you pepper them to get them to believe into you, and then you ask them to buy and they will essentially buy. Okay. So it's awareness, interest, consideration, and conversion. But then you're not done there because you don't want that customer to leave, right? So now what do you do? So then you need to create some way to create loyalty for them. Once they're brought in, you need to show them that you care about them, show them that they matter, show them that you want to grow, that you want them to grow with you in your journey as a business owner, as one of your customers. So you ask for feedback, you ask how they would improve the service, you continue to drip other content to them to keep them satisfied with the information that you're providing. It's not all just about getting them to buy and you're done. There's more that goes into it, whether you're selling a car, whether you're selling an iPhone, whether you're selling an app. If you can master this piece of creating that loyalty to you and adding all of that other information after they've still bought and that you're taking care of them and you're listening to them and you're bettering the process, they will continue to trust you and they will continue to stay with you. And then the last thing is advocacy. Then what you want them to do is provide them a way to get them to refer to others. So you have this loyalty thing that they believe in you so much because of how well you took care of them, how well you listened to them, how well you continue to make their experience amazing. And then you ask them to advocate for you. You can do that through like an affiliate program, a referral program. You can give them gifts if they decide to say, go and reach out to someone. Like, so for me, if someone refers someone over to me for Q Financial, I give them, a month of like 10 to 20% off or take some money off their taxes during tax season to get them to refer people over. Okay. And you can ask them for reviews. You can ask them for, social proof. You can have them push something out on social media. You can make, giveaways if they do something like that to really show that these individuals, these individuals that care for you, they're advocating for you, and you can entice them to do that for you because they believe in you. And then if you entice them with something, then they will definitely do it as well. So again, that's the whole stage of what you want to do. It's like, they learn about your company through awareness. They start to gain interest in your company through, you providing that you're a thought leader in the space. You pepper them or nurture them by continuing to build that trust with them, by giving them other free stuff. Okay. And then you finally ask them to buy, and that's the conversion. And then they buy. And then you build loyalty by listening to them, having them give you feedback, asking them, thanking them, making sure that the experience was really good for them. And then you ask them to advocate for you. Okay. And then and sometimes you'll find some really good advocators. That's one of the things that made 3T Warrior Academy so successful, is all the people that really work for 3T Warrior Academy now that are part of our ecosystem. They were all customers at one point that ended up advocating for us. And that was because we provided stuff for them as much as we possibly could to help them. They saw the value in that, and then they started advocating, and now we actually have an affiliate program and so forth with our 3T Warrior Academy. So again, this is what you need to do. So if there's some key takeaways here, one, if you're not making revenue, you're dying. You need to be making more revenue every single quarter, month over month, week over week, or your business is going to fail. You have to get that through your head. Second thing is that if you're not at $1 million yet, it means enough people don't know about you, which means that you really, really need to start to master the sales funnel, and you are going to have to spend money on advertising, even if you spend that on awareness and you can't directly see the return on investment from it. You will see awareness happen, and you will see just business coming in. I mean, I run awareness ads all the time, and I still see business coming in. For some of my businesses, still need to lock down those other things, but you could see as awareness happens that your business is growing because more and more people are hearing about it. More and more people are going to start following you on social media. More and more people are going to hear about you. If you take 15 years of your life, I used to say 7, I used to say 10, but if you take 15 years of your life and you go hardcore in your business where you're giving 40 hours a week to it, or 25 or 30 hours a week to it for 15 years, you will never have to worry about anything, and your kids won't have to worry about anything. If you do it for 7, you could probably still do it 10, but you can even go harder and more for 15 years. The longer that you could do it, the better the benefit it is going to be for you and your family. And with that, remember, be thankful, grateful, and kind, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into The Age of Jeremy. My name is Jeremy Quintanilla. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to it. Please share it. Please give it a rating if your podcatcher allows you to. The opening song was Can't Be Cool Forever by Medium Build. The closing song is Mutable by Spanish Love Songs. I'm recording into a Neumann microphone through my Zoom L8 to my Cubase by Steinberg's, and I use Waves plugins in post. And with that, be thankful, grateful, and kind. We'll talk with you next time. Bye.
Was climbing, I hung my head.